My family mocked my aunt's off-grid life for years. Last week, we begged her to save us. My Aunt Carol is the family legend, but not in a good way. She's the cautionary tale my parents would tell, the story of what happens when you have potential and you throw it all away. Carol is brilliant. She has a master's degree in botany from a prestigious university. In the 90s, she worked in a high-tech agricultural lab doing cutting-edge research. And then one day, she just walked away. She used a small inheritance from our grandparents to buy 30 acres of dense woodland in the most remote part of the state, a place where the cell signal goes to die. And she started building a life that my family could only describe as willfully backward. My family, we are the polar opposite of Carol. We are city people, through and through. My dad is a corporate lawyer. My mom is a real estate agent who specializes in luxury condos. My sister is in her residency to become a surgeon. We live in a sleek, minimalist apartment on the 27th floor of a glass tower downtown. Our lives are a testament to modern convenience. We have smart everything, a smart fridge that tells us when we're low on milk, smart lights that adjust to the time of day, a smart thermostat that learns our schedule. We value ambition, career, and the relentless pursuit of progress. To us, Carol's life was a complete and utter failure. Her homestead, as she called it, was a source of constant ridicule at family gatherings. We'd trade stories about our latest visit like we were telling tales from a third-world country. "Can you believe she still uses a wood stove?" my dad would say, shaking his head. "It's like living in the 1800s. And the toilet," my mom would shriek with laughter. "A composting toilet, it's just so earthy." They mocked her massive vegetable garden, her rows of canned goods in the pantry, her hand-crank water well. They called it her hobby farm, as if it were a quaint little pastime and not the intricate, self-sustaining system that it was. I was a product of my environment. I grew up hearing these things, and I absorbed them. To me, Aunt Carol was this strange, eccentric relative we had to visit once a year out of a sense of familial duty. The visits were always awkward. We'd arrive in our clean, expensive SUV, stepping out onto the dirt driveway like astronauts setting foot on an alien planet. Carol would greet us with a warm hug, her hands always smelling of soil and herbs. She'd offer us sun tea brewed with mint from her garden, and we'd politely sip it while trying not to look at the dirt under her fingernails. I didn't understand her. Why would anyone choose this life? A life without high-speed internet, without takeout, without the comforting hum of a central air conditioning unit. A life of hard physical labor, of solitude. I saw her life not as an achievement, but as a profound and baffling waste. My parents spent years trying to get her to sell the land. "Carol, you're sitting on a gold mine," my mom would argue over the phone. "A developer would pay a fortune for this acreage. You could buy a beautiful condo downtown, right near us. You could travel, you could have a real life." Carol would always listen patiently, and then she would politely decline. "I have a real life here, Sarah," she would say, her voice calm and steady. "I'm happy." This response would infuriate my parents. They couldn't comprehend it. Her contentment was an insult to their values. It was a rejection of everything they had worked so hard for. As I got older, a part of me started to feel a flicker of something other than pity for her. It was a sliver of grudging respect. During one visit, she showed me how her rainwater harvesting system worked, how it channeled water from the roof into massive cisterns, then through a complex but non-electric filter she had designed herself. She explained the principles of crop rotation and companion planting. She showed me her small array of solar panels and the bank of deep-cycle batteries in her shed that stored enough power to run her lights, her small refrigerator, and her radio. I didn't say it out loud, but I was impressed. It was a complex, ingenious system. It was science. It was the work of the brilliant botanist she used to be. But then I would go back to the city, back to the effortless comfort of my life, and the impression would fade. Her world seemed so small and irrelevant compared to the vast, interconnected world I lived in. The world of instant information, of global markets, of endless possibility. Her homestead was a novelty, a historical reenactment. My world was the future. The last time we spoke before everything changed was about 2 months ago. My sister had just gotten engaged to another doctor, and my mom called Carol to share the news. I was in the room and could hear the conversation. My mom was gushing about the wedding plans, the fancy venue, the 5-star caterer. Then her tone shifted. "It's just a shame, Carol, that you don't have anyone to share your life with out there. Don't you ever get lonely?" It was a classic passive-aggressive jab. Carol's response was quiet. "I have the trees and the birds and the deer. I'm not lonely, Sarah. I'm just alone." After the call, my mom shook her head. "Poor thing, she's completely lost touch with reality." That was the consensus. Aunt Carol was the one who was lost. We were the ones who were grounded in the real world. The real world broke 2 weeks ago. It started with the rain. A cold, relentless downpour that lasted for 3 days. It wasn't just rain, it was freezing rain. A thick, heavy glaze of ice began to coat everything. Tree branches, power lines, roads. It was beautiful at first, like the whole city had been encased in glass. Then the branches started to break. The weight of the ice was too much. We'd hear a loud crack, followed by a crash. Then the power lines started to snap. The first flicker of the lights was a mild annoyance. We were in the middle of a movie. The lights came back on a second later, then they flickered again, and this time they stayed off. We waited. We figured it was a temporary outage, a common occurrence in a storm, but hours passed. The sun went down and the city didn't light up. The entire downtown core was a black hole. My dad got on his phone. The cell service was spotty, but he managed to get a news alert. It wasn't just a local outage. The ice storm had caused a catastrophic failure of a major electrical grid substation that served the entire region. They were estimating it could take weeks to repair, not days, weeks. The temperature in our apartment started to drop immediately. Our high-tech building was entirely dependent on electricity. No power meant no heat. No lights, no stove, and crucially, no water pumps. After the first few hours, the water stopped running. We were on the 27th floor. We were trapped in a cold, dark, silent box. The first day was a novelty. We huddled under blankets, telling stories, eating the snacks from our pantry. By day 2, the novelty was gone. It was bitterly cold. We could see our breath inside the apartment. The food was running low. The grocery stores in the city had been emptied within hours of the news breaking, scenes of panic and desperation playing out in the aisles. By day 3, the fear set in. Real fear. The city outside our window had descended into a quiet chaos. No traffic lights meant constant accidents. No power meant no security systems, and looting had begun. The world we knew, the world of order and convenience, had evaporated overnight. We were completely helpless. We had money, status, ambition, and none of it mattered. We couldn't eat our stock portfolios. We couldn't burn our law degrees for warmth. Our smart fridge was just a useless metal box. We were just as vulnerable as everyone else, maybe more so. We had no practical skills. We had outsourced our survival to a system that had just collapsed. On the evening of the 4th day, we were huddled together in the living room, wrapped in every blanket and coat we owned. We were rationing the last of our bottled water and crackers. My sister was crying softly. My dad, who I had always seen as invincible, looked old and defeated. He was staring out the window at the dark, silent city. And then he said it. The words I knew were coming, the words that were our last, desperate hope. We have to go to Carol's. It was an admission of utter defeat, a complete surrender of everything he believed in. He was admitting that his life, his entire worldview, was a fragile illusion, and that the backward life of the sister he had mocked for decades was the only real thing left. The journey was a nightmare. The roads were a treacherous sheet of ice, littered with fallen trees and abandoned cars. It took us 6 hours to make a drive that should have taken 2, but we made it. We turned onto her long, dirt driveway, and it was like entering another world. Smoke was curling lazily from her chimney. A soft yellow light glowed from her windows. It was an oasis of warmth and order in a world of cold and chaos. She met us at the door. She wasn't surprised to see us. She just looked at our tired, desperate faces, and she opened her arms. She didn't say, "I told you so." She didn't say anything. She just hugged my mother, who was sobbing uncontrollably. She led us inside. The house was warm, a wonderful, enveloping warmth from the wood stove. A big pot of soup was simmering on top of it, filling the air with the smell of vegetables and herbs. She gave us bowls of the hot soup and thick slices of homemade bread. It was the best meal I have ever had in my life. She gave us blankets and led us to her spare room. We fell into a deep, exhausted sleep, the first real sleep we'd had in days. We've been here for over a week now. The power is still out in the city, and the news reports are getting grimmer. Here at the homestead, life continues as it always has. Every day is a rhythm of simple, necessary tasks. I help Carol chop wood for the stove. I help her fetch water from the well. I learn how to milk her 2 goats. My mom and sister help in the kitchen, learning how to cook on a wood stove, how to make bread from scratch. My dad, the high-powered lawyer, is the quietest I've ever seen him. He spends his days helping Carol reinforce a fence or turn the compost pile. The work is hard, my muscles ache. My hands are calloused and dirty, and I have never felt more alive. I see the genius in everything around me. The homestead isn't a hobby, it's a masterpiece of engineering and ecological design. It's a closed-loop system, resilient and self-sufficient. It's not backward, it's the ultimate form of security. My family is humbled. The arrogance is gone, replaced by a quiet gratitude. They see Carol now not as a failure, but as their savior. But I know them. I know that as soon as the power is restored, as soon as the city hums back to life, they will be desperate to go back. They will see this as a temporary interruption, a scary story to tell at dinner parties. They will slip back into their old lives, their old beliefs. They might have a new respect for Carol, but they won't change. But I have. Something in me has fundamentally shifted. I look at my soft office worker hands starting to toughen up, and I feel a sense of pride. I look at the pantry full of food we helped preserve, and I feel a sense of security that no 401k has ever given me. Last night, Carol and I were sitting by the fire. She was showing me how to darn a sock. My family was asleep. "You have good hands for this work," she said quietly. "You have a feel for it." I looked at her. This woman my family had pitied for so long. She wasn't a failure. She was the wisest, strongest person I had ever known. And in that moment, I realized I didn't want to go back. I don't want to return to a life in a glass tower, completely dependent on a fragile system I don't control. I want this. I want to learn to be self-sufficient. I want to build a life that is real, that is resilient. My parents want to leave the second the roads are clear. They expect me to come with them, to go back to my tech job, to my life. But I think I want to stay here with Carol. I want to learn everything she knows. So, Reddit, am I wrong for wanting to abandon the life my family built for me, the life of success, to embrace this backward world that just saved all of our lives?